Happy May 4th. Today, the first episode of The Bad Batch came out, and today also marks the 1-year anniversary of the release of the last episode of The Clone Wars. But today I don't intend to discuss either of these shows, but rather the show that has been and will continue to be overshadowed by them. Star Wars Rebels. The animation is not on the same level of the later seasons of The Clone Wars, sure. It doesn't tell a story about characters as well known as Obi-Wan or Anakin either. But Star Wars Rebels is still a very solid series. It tells a more singular story than the Clone Wars, allowing it to focus more on the crew of the Ghost, even after their integration into the larger rebellion. It's these characters more so than the story they are a part of that make this show compelling, and it tends to be these character-focused episodes that stand out, not just in this show, but in Star Wars as a whole. Today, to celebrate May 4th, I would like to talk to you about what I think is the best episode of Star Wars Rebels. Season 3, Episode 15, titled Trials of the Darksaber. If you watched The Mandalorian Season 1 and saw the Darksaber, then went on YouTube to find out what it was, you very well may have watched the opening scene from this episode. In it, the Mandalorian Fen Rau explains to Kanan Jarrus the origin of the blade. It was constructed by the only Mandalorian Jedi, and after his death it was stolen from the temple and used as a symbol under which to unite Mandalore. His explanation not only sheds much light on the situation, but the use of the light and shadows made by the Darksaber itself was a very artistic choice on how to show the audience this story. And this form of storytelling makes sense, given the focus of the episode is on Sabine Wren, an artist. As a Mandalorian, Sabine knows the responsibility that wielding the blade would entail, and naturally is not very enthused to take on such a task.
I imagine Sabine was excited to recover it.
You wouldn't know it. After we got back from Dathomir, she gave it to me for safekeeping and hasn't brought it up since.
But we, the audience, are already aware that this is due to more than just her nerves. We know Kanan's past, we've seen Zeb's people, and we've seen Hera's father. And we know the whereabouts of Ezra's parents are unknown after their resistance to the Empire. But Sabine, we know next to nothing about her past. We know she's a Mandalorian, an expert fighter, and a talented artist. We also know she was once in the Imperial Academy, but besides that, we know nothing about her past. When we first see Sabine after this, the camera pans over a painting she made of the crew, her new family, the people she cares about most in the world. And when she walks out to meet with them, they are the ones asking her to face her past, despite not even knowing themselves what happened to her. Sabine mentions that she is fine without her old family, happy to be with this new family instead. But then even Hera asks her to fight.
Family history can be painful, but we can use those warriors for our attack on Lothal.
It's interesting, though, that none of them except for Kanan ask Sabine to do this because they think it would be beneficial for her, but rather because it's in their best interest, in the rebellion's best interest, to have a Mandalorian army at their side. They successfully guilt-trip Sabine into accepting the blade. She takes it from Kanan as the scene is about to wipe away, but oddly enough, she does not ignite the blade. This episode is more than just character development for Sabine, though. Right away, we see how far Kanan has come since Season 1. Back then, Kanan would constantly train Ezra near the Ghost, and sometimes even on it. But right away, he takes Sabine far from the Ghost, far from the Rebel Alliance, so that she would not be distracted like Ezra once was. And his calm, collected attitude is a significant improvement from his mood at the beginning of the first season, and even more so an improvement from the beginning of this season, when all he did was pity himself. So they arrive at the training area and Kanan has Sabine fight with sticks rather than the Darksaber itself. Her first duel with Kanan has Sabine view Kanan as overprotective, and Kanan sees Sabine as overconfident. Already, it is clear that Sabine does not have the right mindset. She wishes to rush through the training, thinking it for the most part unnecessary. Because she was guilted into this, because she's not fully open to it, as Kanan soon points out to Hera, she's not really trying. Kanan claims that since Sabine is closed off to everyone, even the Force, she cannot truly progress in her training. Thus, there is an impasse on the training field. Sabine isn't committed because she's closed off, and Kanan won't let her fight with anything but a stick because she's not open to anything more.
She's so expressive and yet so tightly wound. She's so...
Mandalorian.
Ugh, very.
Fen Rao, the only person there who understands where Sabine is coming from, given they're both Mandalorians, gives her Mandalorian bracelets in order to stand a better chance against Kanan and Ezra. But once again, she's overconfident. She takes on Kanan and immediately loses, even with her new tools. Kanan admonishes her for using such foolish tactics, noting that they may work generally, but not absolutely. Upset, Sabine rushes off, only for Ezra to follow. She, much like Kanan earlier in the season, pities herself. She sees her situation as unfair. She tells Ezra that he doesn't understand, but at the same time, she says she doesn't want to tell him her story. Her family sees her as a traitor, and to her, that's the only thing that matters. Sabine is truly in an awful situation. Yet Ezra, in just one sentence, reminds Sabine how lucky she really is.
At least you have parents to go back to.
Sabine realizes this and kicks a rock before walking away, but it turns out that the rock was actually the Bendu, who awakens to see what disturbed him. This may seem like a minor detail to bring up, but recall that earlier Kanan mentioned she's closed off from the Force. The fact that she awoke the Bendu was a sign that Ezra's words unlocked something in her, made her realize that she might have been wrong. So that night she returns to their camp, arms crossed, clearly feeling guilty as she walks over to Kanan to apologize. But Kanan beats her to the punch, because he too realized something. While talking to Hera, Kanan realized that he was wrong to think Sabine needed to be balanced to use the saber, because without the saber she lacks the ability to balance herself. Without his trust, she lacks the willpower to open herself up to him, and everyone for that matter. The writing here is excellent. Kanan and Sabine each hold each other's previous opinions regarding the training. They both can see where the other was coming from. So Kanan gives Sabine the Darksaber, and so begins my favorite scene in the entire series. It begins with Kanan giving a great explanation regarding the Darksaber's weight.
You're not fighting with a simple blade as much as you are directing a current of power. Your thoughts, they flow through the crystal as well and become a part of the blade.
And when Kanan ignites his saber, Kevin Kiner's score gets louder, as if it were a true conflict, a real fight, because for Sabine, it is. She tries using the bracelets given to her by Rao, but just as Kanan predicted, they fail to give her an edge, and she winds up breaking one of them. Kanan mentions that she isn't losing to him, but rather to herself. So Sabine fights harder, saying she never quits, and Kanan continues to push her. The music evolves from drums of the fight into Sabine's theme. Sabine pushes back, and when Kanan demands the truth, she finally tells him. She says that while she was in the academy, she helped the Empire build weapons, but the weapons she designed were used to slaughter and oppress her people. So Sabine spoke out and told everyone the truth, but ultimately the Empire's influence over the Mandalorians led everyone, even her own family, to side with the Empire over her. And as she tells this story, Kiner's beautiful score continues to swell, making this moment of character development all the more beautiful to see unfold, all the more heartbreaking to hear. And it is in this moment of honesty, after finally opening herself up to the world, to Kanan, that she finally overpowers him. She defeats him. And as she stands there over him, extinguishing her blade, the music dies down. And she says,
"The Empire wanted to destroy worlds, and they did. They destroyed mine."
I remember tearing up after watching this for the first time. The emotion from Sabine, largely thanks to Tia Sircar's superb acting, Kevin Kiner's phenomenal music to accentuate the dire situation Sabine describes. After 3 seasons of watching this show, we finally learned about Sabine's past, and quite frankly, Dave Filoni and his team executed this reveal perfectly. In Sabine's most dominant scene, during a fight in which she bests a Jedi Knight, she is at her most vulnerable. Kanan comforts her, but reminds her that her family needs her now more than ever. And when she asks how she can help them, why they would listen to her, follow her, it isn't Kanan or even Ezra that answer, but rather Fen Rao. This was perfect. Sabine is not a Jedi. Kanan and Ezra can help her, sure, but Fen Rao's input is arguably most important given he is more like her, more like the people Sabine must set out to save. He declares he would follow her, then kneels before her as is Mandalorian custom, as does Kanan, and of course Ezra. The episode then ends with Kanan reassuring Sabine that they will be there for her no matter what, as her theme once again plays. What a fantastic episode.